Next up, this is a conversation we've been really looking forward to. Without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Deepika Arwind, playwright, actor, creator, and Nisha Susan, writer, journalist, co-founder of ladiesmaker.com. The format is going to be simple, conversation of about 45 minutes, 45 to 50 minutes, and then we'll open it up to you guys. Yeah, it is.
Hi, good evening everyone. Thank you for being here. Today we're going to be listening to all the fun and ridiculous things that Nisha Susan has to tell us. As you know, she's the co-founder of The Lady's Finger, a women's web magazine that talks about pretty much everything in a smart, funny, cheeky way. And she also founded, I don't know whether that's still in your memory, but the Pink Chaddi Campaign several years ago when the Sri Ram Sene was threatening to stop Valentine's Day celebrations and stuff like that. So actually that's a good starting point for us to talk. We're going to be talking about lots of things, including writing, women and writing, and anything that comes up in between. So, Nisha.
I'm just going to do this mic thing because... Hello, yes. Otherwise I mumble. So
Nisha, I want to talk to you about, so you used to work as a reporter at Telka.
I used to work in Telka, I think for 5-6 years. Yeah, so about 6 years I worked in Telka, and the Pink Chaddi thing happened when I was in Telka. So I grew up in Bangalore. I went to school here. I went to college in Jyoti University. Okay, and then I moved to Delhi in my late 20s, and I started working in Telka. But obviously, like all Bangalore people, I was like convinced that I was going to come back any minute. I refused to have a postpaid connection because I was convinced the moment I get a postpaid connection, no one will allow me back into Karnataka. So for years, this went on, this pretense that I'm moving back to Bangalore tomorrow. So to an extent, the reason why the Pink Chaddi thing happened is because it felt very immediate and near to me, though I was sitting in Delhi. I'm going to do like a quick recap of what happened. The first thing that happened is there was like this news clip that went all over TV. There was a picture of, there was a sequence of men from some group called the Ram Sene beating up girls who would come to drink in a bar, college girls drinking in a bar in Bangalore. And it went viral and everybody was like super shocked. But you know how it is, right? Like you see a video of girls being beaten, everybody's shocked for like 5 minutes and then they're like, oh, we'll wait for the next beating, right? So that's roughly how it was then as well. And I think I saw it and I was shocked like everyone else. And then about a week, 10 days later, I read this thing about the Ram Sene saying, we won't allow Valentine's Day in Karnataka, and like anybody who tries to celebrate Valentine's Day, we'll marry them off, right? So it seemed ridiculous to me, not because I care about Valentine's Day, like really who does, right? But it seemed like, it's Valentine's Day, like how can you have strong feelings about it? Like the only people who have strong feelings about Valentine's Day is like Archie's shops back in the day and Ram Sene. So anyway, so the thing is I had a small encounter with the Ram Sene before that as a reporter. Basically there was an exhibition of Hussain photography, like photographs of Hussain. It's a tiny little exhibition. It was on a lawn in some central Delhi building. There were two sweet old men sitting there telling everybody where the photos were taken. And the Ram Sene guys came and they broke everything and they frightened these poor old men, and then they left like lots of gali in Hindi, like Karnataka's writing bad Hindi gali, like whatever they learned from TV, and left it there and ran away. So I was like, what is this totally jobless group? Like they're like utterly jobless, but the moment you escalate this thing, it becomes a way of seizing power, right? So as a joke, because I was very bored, at 2 o'clock at one night, I wrote this thing saying that we should start a group called the Consortium of Pub-Going Loose and Forward Women, Because I was like, let's embrace the insult. Like if you're being called like bad women, let's embrace the insult. So then it was like 2 in the morning, you know, the kind of things you do at 2 in the morning, they're all like bad usually, right? So I did it, and you know, I'm not sure I regret it, but like it's highly avoidable, I feel. Anyway, so I did it, and about 30 seconds later, a girl I know, who is now a pretty famous writer, she joined, and then, you know, and we both giggled, and then I went to sleep. And then I woke up in the morning and there were like 500 people. Okay, and then I went to work because I had a job. And then I was like, okay, whatever. Then I was like, oh shit, there's like 1,500 people. So this went on. The next morning, it was like some 3,000 people. So then I had to tell my boss, because I was like, there's a small problem that this is happening. So my boss, you know, now known for other things, unfortunately, he was very sweet. He was like, are you doing anything horrible or violent? And I was like, no, it's peaceful. We're just planning to send underwear to the dance venue. So he like, looked at me like suspiciously and said, okay. I was like, I don't want to go. And so that's where it started.
I remember being, I think, impressionable 21-year-old at the time, and going Pink Chaddi. That's a great title because the right-wingers, they're chaddis. Pink Chaddi, Valentine's Day, making all these amazing connections, and the next thing I know, I was picking up 200 pink used and unused underwear from different collection centers in Bangalore, and we were shipping them off to their address.
Yeah, so it was like it was crowdsourced before we knew the word crowdsourced. Like someone sent us the address, someone told us here's where you should send it. I mean, like there's this. I wish I had the picture. So I had a picture of like 4 ladies in their 50s, like all our moms, looking very serious, and they're like somewhere in Bombay, in Versova, I think, all holding up the big underwear that they were sending. I was like, this is the best thing that's happening to my life, because people kept sending pictures. Somebody's grandmother called and said, "Ha, beta, even I sent one." Okay.
And it was amazing because this little thing that started off as like a joke on the internet garnered so many underwear that the next day on TV9, I remember watching the live footage of the Shriram Sene opening boxes. These men in like khadi kurtas opening boxes and boxes of pink underwear. And like, where did this come from? Did you feel scared at the time? Because you were trolled, I know you were.
So, see, the online stuff, I should like be bothered because I know it can be serious, but at that point I don't think I really registered. But I was going to work, you know, and I had like my regular life, and I was sitting in meetings and I was doing reporting. And Beach May, there were like random people coming to interview me, which all the rest of my colleagues found very like comical. We had like this big jart receptionist who would be like, "Madam, आपके लिए कोई TV वाले आए." And I'd be like, okay, I understand your opinion of this situation, but you know, let's just manage it. So it didn't seem very real to me, apart from all these phone calls, and I was sort of part of a larger group of sort of politically active young people at that point, so it was easy for us to organize these things and to think it through. But then it got like weird, right? So then the Sene was like, you are all dirty ladies and your parents are all horrible and you weren't brought up right, and all of this doesn't seem very relevant. Then we heard things like, we will take revenge on you, we will send you saris. So I mean it continued in this sort of pointless way for a long time, but the trolling was bad. Like our Facebook page got taken down
Several times. Yeah.
Like several times, meaning roughly 5 times a day. So our Facebook page would be replaced by like Ma Behan Gali, pictures of shit, like blood over photos of volunteers, like really creepy things. All our phone numbers, by the way, we are very smart. We put our phone numbers everywhere. Okay? So the whole country was calling us and saying, "Hello, can I send my chaddi to you?" And I was like, okay, like whatever. So yeah, so I don't know. We should have been scared, but I don't think it kicked in for a while.
This is the other thing I want to talk to you about. I don't know if you've read The Lady's Finger, and The Lady's Finger has a ton of interesting writing that sometimes is hard to read because some of it is accounts of women who have survived rape and abuse, and some of it is really funny and trashes like Bollywood movies for being what they are sometimes, etc., etc. But because you run this magazine with a whole bunch of gutsy writers who are not gutsy in the sense that they're thinking they're gutsy, they're just writing about things that might offend certain sensibilities. How do you reconcile doing this type of thing where you're mobilizing a whole bunch of people to send underwear to old uncles, which is in itself quite a hard thing, and young uncles, and the fact that you want to do it because it's really like the things they're doing are violent and unfair and unfortunate. So how do you reconcile being brave and being really scared, because that's...
So I mean, I thought it at that time, and I think it often now also, that for me being part of the Pink Chaddi thing was like a coming out party. It's like for someone coming out of the closet. Because though I was sort of politically aware, like participated in things, but I always thought of myself in terms of one identity, which is of being a middle to upper middle class woman in a city in India where the majority of the country is in poverty. So I only thought of myself in relation to those things. I didn't think really, I mean, I was feminist or in all real terms, but I didn't think of my issues as something that I talked to anybody other than my girlfriends, right? So which is really weird, like considering that in theory I was a feminist, but I wasn't actually, I didn't think I had permission to say things, because in the kind of circles that I lived in, unless you were a woman carrying water like 6 kilometers, because you are in a drought-stricken state, as a woman you had no problems. You are a woman in Bangalore, you have problems, like how could that be? Actually, all my problems were the men we were hanging out with. I mean, I figured that only later on. And then, like, once we got rid of them, all was okay. But, so in a weird way, to come out as who I was, a person of a particular class with a lot of privilege, but still having particular issues of living in India and having a kind of lifestyle, it was really liberating. Like now, it was like I had taken an advertisement. Like everybody from my mother's most distant relative to my father's most distant relative probably has a sense that I send underwear to strangers. Okay? Like once that's done, you're set. Like you're out. Like anything you do after that is okay. It's like plus. Like she is not sending underwear today. Brownie points. Okay. So after that, I felt like a lot of my inherent fears or like this desire to be a good girl is over. So fears I think an important thing, because the reason why we started Finger, this is our 3rd year, we started Finger 6 months after the Delhi gang raid. Fear is the reason we started it, because suddenly the papers were full of women's issues, but all the women's issues were just rape. That's it. In fact, there's a survey that's going to come out, the results of which will come out later this year. It's a survey that looks at coverage of gender issues over every 5 years. We actually have less coverage of gender issues in the last 5 years than the previous 5 years. It's hard to believe, right? You think that the paper is full of stuff. Actually, nothing. It's only full of rape. That's all people cover. So 6 months after December 16 and the kind of activism around it, we felt like there is once more a necessity to sort of course correct, to take conversations about women to women's experiences and not just the fear of rape and the fear of sexual violence. So like avoiding fear and avoiding being trapped by fear is like a big motivation.
All day today we've been talking about theatre, what it does, how we use it, what is playwright's role, what do they write about, and things like that. And often, as someone who writes, I'm often caught off guard by this thought, which is that at the moment I don't feel anything about anything. So, like, what do I write about? Can I force myself to feel a certain way about a certain issue and it's just facetious and it's contrived. So my question to you really is, as a writer and somebody who mobilized a group of people, and a Lady's Finger, which is not activist-y in its tone, but certainly has a place in the activist scheme. Do you find yourself it's hard to straddle between these two roles, or does it come naturally to you?
Okay, so I feel like this is connected to what we were saying earlier, that I feel like, to me, like my role in life as a writer is to make sense of things for myself and see if I can communicate it to others, right? But it's not just like, oh, go report the facts. That's rubbish. It doesn't work that way. It's also about communicating your sensibility and what you feel about things, right? So, to answer the first part of your question, which is how do you force yourself to have an opinion on things? It's true, when you work in digital media and you're producing content every day, like if you work in these places, you're supposed to actually produce 15, 20, 30 pieces a day. That's the kind of newsrooms people work in. We don't produce that much. But there is this thing, okay, Salman has said something, you must immediately have an opinion. Somebody else has said something, you must immediately have an opinion. Actually, I don't have many opinions on many things. I don't care. Okay, I really don't care. So, for instance, December 16, it hit me like it hit everybody else. But I'm actually kind of slow. When I finally wrote something about it was 6 months later. So June of the next year, I finally figured out what I wanted to write. And the piece that I wanted to write is, to me, a very obvious piece. The piece is, what do you do if you have been raped, right? Like everybody was like, stay at home, like tell your friends, get those panic buttons on your phone, all of those things. But for me, what was important was to figure out, actually, if you have been raped, and people get raped all the time, they do survive. It's not like, you know, in the movies that they'll run into the bedroom and close the door and get a sari and hang themselves. You know, rape victims don't do that necessarily. Like, I can say without doubt that there are many rape survivors in this room. There is possibly like many rape survivors in the first 4 rows, right? So it's not like we've all run off and killed ourselves. So that was the story I wanted to write. So, and I found it very useful. So I spoke to survivors, I spoke to lawyers, I spoke to policemen, I spoke to journalists, and that's the piece I wanted to write. And that really helped.
I was scared to read the piece, and I was just telling her before this, that's the kind of piece you don't want to read, because you don't want to confront the possibility of that happening to you, and the steps after that are incredibly hard to take. So what I wanted to, actually I was just going to come to that, I'm glad you brought it up. Did you find yourself panicking at any point?
Story, because I really felt, once I figured it out, I felt like it was really useful. And by talking to, like, see, there is a procedure. Like, someone will tell you, go to the police. Actually, we don't want to go to the police. Do you want to go to the police? I don't want to go to the police if I've lost my laptop. Like, why would I go to the police if I've been raped? Like, the last thing I want to do is go to the police. But you want to go to the police in the long run because you want justice, right? So the thing for me was to forget the laws and to figure out what is the ground procedure. And talking to other women really helped me, and I felt quite comfortable doing it. What was hard to do was like 6 months after that, the end of that year, when I found out that my ex-boss has been accused of sexually assaulting my ex-colleague. That was frightening. That was frightening not because I felt like, oh my god, that's so frightening, I was in that office. I mean, nothing as stupid as that, because it crushed me. It crushed me to think that someone I really loved and respected could do that to someone else that I knew. And that's frightening. And that, I actually didn't get out of bed for 10 days. Because I was like, there's no point to anything, you know. There's no point to this existence at all because it is horrible. And that was a really, really difficult piece to write. To write about what it was 1 year after Nirbhaya, in a situation where people I was close to was involved in this massive case. And I did write about it, and I think it's one of the best things I ever wrote, but it was also most like difficult piece of writing I've ever done.
And talking about writing and the finger and the kind of writing that you do, the word feminism that sparks fear in some and scarily enough rolling of eyes in other people, that's the scary. Actually, fear is okay, but that scares me.
That's also fear. That's also fear.
Probably.
Like, I have a colleague who just wrote this piece, okay? She just joined like 3 weeks ago. She's straight out of college. This is a really lovely girl. So she said this weird thing is happening to her. Suddenly all the boys that she knows, not all, but many of the boys that she knows are sending her memes about like how feminism is rubbish. Like, she hasn't called them and said, hey, I've started working in a feminist magazine, send me shit, you know. But they're all like, desperately sending her things, you know. So this, I was like, what is happening? So I was telling her, do you think it's like you've joined the income tax department and they're all like, you know, like got black money under their beds? Do you feel like they're getting that tension, you know, ki abhi like pakad mein aa jayega type feeling? Okay, I couldn't figure it out. So I think the rolling eyes is also fear.
Right. So the rolling eyes, but this term obviously like sparks several things in the public sphere. You have we were talking about I think Priyanka Chopra, who said, "I'm not a feminist and all, but you know, just to sort of there are immediate retractions from the statement, apologies." Does it piss you off?
You know, it's very sad, but it pissed me off that Priyanka Chopra did it. Because I was like, I mean, it's so awesome that she's in this American show. It's a real path-breaking thing for her to have done it. She's the lead in a big American show, like a big, well-funded, stupid, like completely unwatchable show. But it's great. You know, I'm like rooting for Priyanka Chopra. And then she gives this interview in which she's like, you know, it's got like powerful women characters, but it's not like feminist and all, you know, and it's not like Bravo. Bra ko chhod do yaar, like leave it. Okay. So it really irritated me. Okay, and I wrote like one angry post saying shut up. But see, I actually don't care. I don't care if people call themselves feminists or not. Like this week actually I wrote about it because I was thinking of how much kicks I got out of Sunny Leon. I don't know, did you guys watch this interview? In which there was this uncle asking Sunny Leon really random questions and she was like, ah, throughout. She was like you can see her face, like she was like this throughout, right? I was like, I don't care if Sunny Leon never ever says that she's a feminist. I don't care. She's done it. She's done her job. It's like she's done a very, very important job. And I don't think Kangana Ranaut is ever going to say I'm a feminist. But there are people who do. Like in the piece that I just wrote, I was talking about this Malayali actress called Rima Karlinkar, who really went at it, man. She talked about the full industry, how the industry is structured, what happens to actors in Malayalam industry. Apparently, women are cast like the day before shooting begins. Like 18 to 25, just pick one lottery and throw them in. So they do. It's nice, but I'm not compulsive about it.
So the term obviously has, but it's part of everything you do, and you know, has it changed the men in your life?
Sorry.
I feel like I didn't discuss this with you, and that's great.
This is a very important question. Okay, so I live with someone. I'm married to someone who I don't think if I beat him 30 times he'd say I'm a feminist. Okay, but we work side by side. We co-run this feminist outfit. I don't know what his family thinks. They don't say anything, but I know what my father said. Okay, my father met the man I married for the first time when he came home for lunch. After lunch, he got up from his table, like from the dining table, picked up his plate and went to the sink. Do you do this? Like everybody in the audience, when you finish, do you pick up the plate and go to the sink? Hands up if you do. I want to meet the people who don't, by the way. Anyway, so this is what my husband did. He's at the point that the story is happening, he's like 32, I think. And he's, you know, lived everywhere. He's an adult. He's not in diapers. This is what my father said to me. You trained him so well. Okay. I was like, where do I start? Okay, where do I start with this situation? So, yeah, it has. Like, I mean, I think like years of fighting with my father, years and years and years of fighting with my father, starting from age 9, has changed him. Like, I know that I'm probably the only person in the country who has not gotten a marriage offer ever. And that's not because of my bad hair. It's because, I think because my parents have stood between me and possibly troubling marriage offers, you know. I actually overheard my father shouting at someone and saying, it is not necessary for everyone to get married. Okay, because I think just fighting with him continuously for 10 years has helped.
But going back to co-founding this thing with your husband, was it ever, did you ever not see eye to eye about what content the figure would?
No, the content thing was not the problem. The thing is, we co-founded 2 things at the same time. One is a mainstream news content site called Risk Media. We did much more mainstream stuff. And Ladies Finger was founded with him and a bunch of other people, right? So when it started, I mean, after a year and a half, when we were like, okay, we're going to take fingers seriously and we're going to build it up the same way we built up the other organization, I actually didn't think he should be involved. Not because he's not feminist. I felt like he's not like paid his dues. I was like, you've not done the exercise. Why should you get the candy now, right? So he actually had to like put in 6 months of work, reading, writing, like in some sense doing all the hardcore training to get into the thing. So, and I think that's fine. I mean, I just felt like you can't just jump into a group which has a certain sensibility without working for it. So that's where we differed.
Right. I also, because we've been talking about the performing arts theatre, writing in theatre over the past 2 days, as people who are somehow involved in the arts, there's this notion that we're really sensitive, that whatever we do is sanctimonious because we're artists. So therefore, whatever we write must be politically correct or whatever you want to call it. It has a politics. It thinks of things in certain ways, but it isn't true. And especially when we talk about theatre or roles for women in the theatre, there's a ton of things that can be said. But how do you feel about that? How do you feel about the way in which artists negotiate their politics, and some of it turns out to be horrifically sort of not in line with what they think they are? There's this huge gap,
Right. So one of the things we do in the finger, like in culture coverage that we do, is this thing called the Bechdel test. Do you guys know what it is? I mean, you must, right? Just in case there's someone who isn't here who doesn't know it. Basically, the Bechdel test is something that was named after this cartoonist called Alison Bechdel. And the idea is a movie passes the Bechdel test if there are 2 women characters in a film who have names. That's rule number 1. Like, okay, there are 2 characters, they have names, they have some speaking lines, and they are talking about something other than a man.
To each other.
Yeah, to each other. Okay, so they speak to each other and they talk about something other than a man.
So women talking about science, like
or
wow.
like anything. Sometimes we pass the movie on the Bechdel test because the woman has said to the other woman, please pass me my toothbrush. But that's about it. Okay, like in every year, maybe 3 films in our Bechdel testing pass the Bechdel test actually. So, so that's one kind of like reassessing of how much play a woman gets in a movie. I mean, another way to think about it is, do you watch this show called How to Get Away with Murder? Yeah. Right? So the lead, when she won the Emmy, one of the amazing things that she said is, how could I win? How could I win if there are no roles for black women written? Like, you say, oh, black women, they don't win, but there are no roles. Like, it's the same way. How do women get like big, powerful roles to play if they're not written? Like, nobody wants it, and they cast them on the basis of 18 to 25 the night before the movie starts shooting, right? So there's that kind of basic problem, but there's also sort of a structural problem. I think Deepika and I were discussing this earlier. I went to a play, and the play was lovely. The actors were my friends, and I really enjoyed it. But I had a big problem because something had happened, like one little teda thing had happened in my brain, and then I couldn't fix it. The teda thing was this. I suddenly realized that a lot of stuff I was watching had a strong woman character. Do you know what a strong woman character is? Like, strong woman character usually has like sex with a guy,
smokes a cigarette
very quickly, smokes a cigarette, and is like bastard. Like that, okay? Like, it's like that. That's a strong woman. So it has a strong woman character. But then if you like break it down and you look at it, basically a strong woman character exists in these shows to give the strength to the man, right? So the plot line is usually the man is the disordered genius. He's not systematic, he's undisciplined, and usually the woman is in the same business. Like, he's a chef, she's a chef. He makes origami, she makes origami. Or he's like a violinist, she's a violinist. But he's just naturally like amazing, and she's just plodding at it, right? And then once you see this, then it's over. Then I can't see the play, man. It's over. I've seen this play before. I've seen this movie before. I've seen it 20 times. Now I want the other one. I want a disordered, undisciplined, fat, like really fat, okay, female character, and one like svelte, handsome guy who's like baby, just do it, I'll be with you. You know, I'll be just standing here, and then 40 scenes later, after you have achieved everything, I will just be standing here again. Okay? Okay, I want to watch that shit now. Like, I'm done with the male fantasy crap. Let me have some female fantasy, and then for 4-5 years, then we'll go back to watching male fantasy. I'm okay with that. A little bit like quota system must happen. Okay, so this is currently my problem. So after I watched my French play, I ran very fast before he could catch me, because I was like, now if he catches me, what do I say?
And most female playwrights, women I've met who write, write because there are no roles for women.
Right.
I remember a very senior director from Bangalore who laughed off a very painful realization that I had in the corridor of an apartment, saying, we just read the plays and you called me for the reading, but I didn't get anything to read. He said, you read stage directions.
Oh.
And I was like, I did, but I'm a performer, I'd like to act. And he said, well, you have to write it if you want to act it. And it's, maybe that's why we write. I don't know.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, it's actually part of our website that we write what we want to read. I mean, that's part of the Ladies Fingers thing, because, you know, other people are not doing it, we might as well do it, and then, you know, get our own jollies, like our cheap thrills by ourselves, right? So I totally believe it. The other problem is, of course, when you do it, right? So I've been running, like, without boasting, I've been running along with my partner 2 content operations, which has won like 14 awards, journalism awards in the last.
I'm sorry, I didn't bring them up.
Okay, no, last 3 years. So the thing is, when we meet men, like male editors, it's a really weird feeling, because they're like, oh, you run that cute thing in Bangalore. I was like, sure, like I run a nursery school, it's very cute, you know. Like, and the thing is, it's a thing that everybody experiences, right? So I met a really cool performer 2-3 days ago. She was hanging out in Bangalore. She's from Bombay. And she's like amazing. She's like a fantastic performer. Anywhere that she performs, I would like to go. She makes a lot of money, like for someone her age. She's, you know, successful. So she was telling me this hysterical story. So she's a stand-up comedian, and she was at some Femina something, okay, one evening, and Farhan Akhtar was there. If anybody has a Farhan Akhtar like friendship here, please close your ears. Okay, so your friendship is not going to work out for the next 2 minutes. Okay, basically, Farhan Akhtar met her and said, oh, you're a stand-up comedian, and then gave her a half-an-hour lecture on how to be a stand-up comedian. Okay, so I mean, you know that the word for it is mansplaining, right?
Yeah.
But it's like people.
Which starts with, well, actually.
Well, actually.
The thing is.
Actually, the thing is, now I'm going to talk so much bullshit, and you just have to like listen. Right? So, yeah, so the mansplaining thing is like a big problem. Like, every woman, professional woman I know has the mansplaining problem. You can be the head of an advertising agency, and some random uncle you meet at a party will tell you how to make an ad. Right? You can be a doctor, and you will meet an uncle. I mean, see, uncle is a category. It is not an age thing. It's not an age thing. Okay, it's not an age thing. You can be a 22-year-old uncle. I have, in fact, met 22-year-old uncles. Okay, so the uncle will tell you, you know, medicine is really bad. Medical care is really bad in India. Okay, like, I'm not sure why I'm having this conversation with you. So part of our problem is that, like, yes, first we have to make what we want to make, then we have to deal with all the idiots who are floating around telling us what to do. So yeah,
it's a problem.
It's a problem.
Okay. This handy filter, the Bechdel test.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that I can write a play, it doesn't have 2 women characters, they're not talking to each other about a man? Can it still be a work of art that is feminist in some way?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, this is just a way, like, Bechdel is just like a thumb rule. It's like, you know, your mother will tell you, put 1 cup of rice and 2 cups of water. And you'll meet someone else who said 2.5. Then someone else will say 1.5, and then you're like, where am I to? You know? So the Bechdel test is just like, it's handy, and you can just use it to train your eyes and ears about the way you watch.
And it's surprising what a simple test it is, and how many things how much fails it.
But then you can watch, like, a colleague of mine wrote a piece about, I forget the name of the movie, it's the movie about the Chilean miners who were stuck in the mine for many days and had to be rescued. It's an all male cast, there is like no women in the mine, okay. But she argued that this is a highly feminist film. She said this is a feminist film because men are vulnerable, they are talking about each other, they are not, bashing each other over the head. It's about mortality and like all kinds of important and I would say feminist issues. So she said this is a feminist film, there are no women, it doesn't matter. So I think that's fine.
You have to be a person.
You just have to be a person.
You
can't be a disordered genius who is making the perfect sandwich while your girlfriend waits.
And she's really gorgeous.
She's really gorgeous.
Yeah,
Always. It's always Scarlett Johansson and John Favreau. Whatever. Okay.
Just with performance.
This is like Deepika exaggerating.
The Lady's Finger is in collaboration with the Goethe Institut, and Sandbox Collective is in charge of curating this year's Gender Bender 2016. What do you hope you get to see from?
So this is the second year of Gender Bender. We had nothing to do with Gender Bender last year, and I just went as like any old viewer, and I was so excited because one of the performances was one written and directed by Deepika, and there were many others. It was really good. There was like photography, there was animation, there was a film which I loved, there were plays, and I just felt like in all this like general noise about gender, it's usually very superficial. Like nobody really gets into experiences and creates something new and exciting out of it. And the idea that there could be this new thing where every year we get like a highly curated range of performances or basically artistic output thinking about gender, that really excited me. So when Sandbox asked whether do you want to be associated, I was like yes, immediately jumping at it. So this year I think there were about 85 applications, and we went through all of them, and there were the judges who went through all of them, and a handful have now won the fellowships, and I think later this year you'll hear the announcements about the actual performances. It's going to be really good. So 1 or 2 I'm super excited about. Yeah. I will say the one that I'm very excited about, this is very bad, I shouldn't say, but it has something to do with buses.
Has something to do with buses?
Yeah.
You're also working on a non-fiction book about Malayali nurses.
Yeah.
Little elaborate.
So earlier you were asking me whether I say, what do I think about the word feminist, right? So I think if I like put a filter on the words that I use a lot, I think the word that I use a lot is Malayali. Like I'm like obsessed with being Malayali. Okay, so it's like I often think that I'm a Malayali writer in English. It just happens to be English, right? So to me, everything can be explained in this framework. If some man behaves really badly and some woman is reporting to me, I'll say, is he Malayali? Then everything is Malayali. No, it's fine. Okay, everything is said. But the language really means something to me. So it's an odd thing. When I started noticing, like it's very stupid. Obviously, I'm quite slow. Then I started noticing that all nurses were Malayali, and I was like, wow, this is just so great. How can this be, right? So then I started thinking about it, and my dad's a doctor. We lived in the Middle East and in Nigeria, and my entire childhood has the wallpaper of my childhood has been one motif: nurses. Okay, there's one sister, Stella, has been part of my life forever. So a lot of my distant cousins, aunts, relatives are all nurses, and they're all in obscure places, right? So I used to think, okay, I know one in Papua New Guinea, I know one in some small town in Texas. I know, obviously the Middle East is like covered like a carpet with Malayali nurses. So yeah, so I was like, I must write about this. This is meant to be. It was like my book.
And is the research the exciting part of this, or is it the actual writing?
I don't know whether it's...
I imagine it's the...
I don't know whether it's research, because when I talk to Malayali nurses, mostly I'm just giggling, okay? I'm like, hee, like this continuously, like one really stupid fangirl. And they're always like some awesome character called Sister Selma Xavier from Attapadi. And she's like slapping someone and saying, okay, I'll talk to you in 5 minutes, okay? And I'm like super excited by this. The first piece that I was doing research for, I spoke to this nurse Sheji Philip. Nurse Sheji Philip. This is the amazing thing about Malayali names. Nobody knows what it is. I can just make it up. Anyway. So Nurse Sheji Philip, when I spoke to her, she was in Tripoli in Libya. Okay. So here's the thing about Sheji Philip. The government of India had put a lot of money and effort in airlifting Sheji Philip from Tripoli and bringing her back safely to India. 6 months later, she had like bounced like a rubber band and gone straight back because she's like, any place is better than Kerala. Okay? Even like Libya is better than Kerala. So at the point in Libya, there was a protest. Okay, the protest had happened that week where like all these sad-looking medical staff were doing this thing saying, there are 14 psychologists, no psychiatrists. There are 14 psychiatrists left in the country of Libya. Okay, we need more psychiatrists. Shaji Philip was like, Kerala is still worse, I'll be here. Okay. So I just found it so insane that she had seen so much like horrible stuff and that she went back. So I asked her and she said it's horrible, there's no respect for a nurse. I mean, one thing is of course they were not paid well enough, but she was a pediatric surgical nurse. That means that she worked in surgeries where children were being operated on for 8 years. When she went back to Kerala, they were paying her 3,500 rupees. So she said, okay, the 3,500 rupees is whatever, but they don't think of me seriously as a person as important in the medical system as a doctor. I mean, if you think about doctors come and they wave at you like this and then they charge you 750 rupees, right? And the nurse is there round the clock, like cleaning your shit, looking after you, making sure that you're okay, like you're actually okay. You can have fantastic doctors and you have bad nurses and you're like, whatever. So yeah, I mean, this is the best characters in the world.
Do we have more time, Prashant?
You have 10 more.
Oh, okay. Just two things, sort of like in the vein of conclusion. And I can't remember because this is what happens when you're talking in front of people. There was a writer who was asked about, he writes this stuff about communalism and just, about stories that affect us. And the readership of this writer is probably people who are already sensitive, who already know about these things. So he said, somebody asked him, don't you think it means if you're constantly converting, preaching to the converted, what's the point? I mean, you're never going to get to the guy on the road who's like leering at you. You're never going to reach him. You're always going to reach like people who already have the sensitivity. And he said, if I don't continue to sing these songs, we'll forget how to sing them. Or, I mean, it's a very, I'm paraphrasing terribly, but do you sometimes feel that about your readership?
So I think it's a good question, especially in the digital thing. You can actually count, right? You can count how many people read this piece, and you'd be like, I slogged over this piece for like 5 days, and like one person is reading it, and like tears will come to your eyes. But it's fine. I think it's fine because one of the things is that if you go on our site, it's not like the Communist Manifesto Part 2. Like we're not talking concepts at all. Usually what we do is that it's a very simple thing that we are sending women to report on women's experiences. So it could be anything. Like one of our big hit pieces is that how awful it is to go to a gynecologist if you're unmarried. Because in India, the first thing they ask you is like, you're not married? Achha. Then that's it. That's the end of that conversation. They don't even want to like probe you because it's possible your virginity might end with a speculum. So basically you might be dying of some uterine cancer, but no one will ever find out because sadly you are also unmarried. So it's okay. It's fine. So this thing of that, it's true, right? Yeah. So it was like all the readers of the world suddenly woke up and said, "Oh my God, my gynecologist is the worst," and then there's like someone else said, "Mine is the worst." And then some one person said, "Mine's quite good," and everybody shouted. And
I remember a whole bunch of, I just got an email, like an Excel sheet that said, where women who need to go to a gynecologist, we may or may not be married, but let's put down a good non-judgy.
So one of the cool things that happened after that article is that people online got together and created a crowdsourced list of non-judgmental, non-preachy, non-moralistic gynecologists. It's the best thing in the world. Like, you want it? I'll send it to you.
No. It's not just about unmarried girls. It's also about newlyweds. And if you talk the word, contraception, if you just don't know things, then they just, bash you. If you're unmarried, you're not supposed to know things. If you're newly married, you should know
No, it's all bad. Let me show you, okay? Like I'm 100 years old. I went to the gynec and I was like, I heard about this HPV vaccine. Like, what is it? I got something else. They're like, this lady told me, you don't need to know about that. So I was like, why? Okay, because my husband's sitting next to me. This is like really bizarre. So you don't need to know about it. It's for how long have you been married? I was like 4 years. You don't need to know about it. I was like, yes.
But why is information like
no,
a problem?
so no, wait. So her conclusion, I think, was she can't possibly be telling me that she's had sex with other people in front of her husband. My husband's like utterly bored and probably playing Candy Crush or something at this moment. Okay? So I said to her in so many words, no, I became sexually active when I was 19 and I got married when I was 32. Do you think I need the HPV vaccine? Yes, definitely. like so much panic. So Candy Crush, like not caring who is happening. Anyway, so basically what I'm saying is that a lot of our stuff is not about like, let's convert this dude to whatever. Like actually we don't care about dudes. Right? If dudes don't read our site, we're okay. So mostly it is about women reporting on women's experiences. And if you go on the site today, there's stuff about a girl who's a rape survivor who loves this show called Jessica Jones. And she's like, I didn't think I would love it, but I love it. And there's a girl who's talking about having like vitiligo. Do you know what vitiligo is? That little white patch there. Yeah, she's talking about how nuts it is to have vitiligo. There's like people talking about films. There's a film, kind of film, where the horror is about IVF. Did you guys know? It's running in the theaters right now. IVF baby becomes a ghost. Okay, so I mean, this is the kind of things that we're interested in. So we really don't care, right? It would be great if the whole country was reading us, but it's fine.
And one of the things that the lady's finger does is everything's funny. And what a great way to tackle all the things we've been talking about, fear, anger, if we can just laugh about it like we have today. But even though that's a great note to end on, I still have one more question for you, which is young people. I mean, you guys have interns and you have I've met so many young women who are like, who've read The Lady's Finger, who, many from Joseph's, actually.
Yeah,
and
just is like our little design.
lots of young people who are reading it and who are excited by it and who want to be part of it. So how do you tackle?
No, it's great. I think one of the things that's important is like, to me, is to continuously acknowledge myself that I'm very old. Like, I'm very old. I work with very young people. It's fine. There's no need to be like young. I just like continue in my geriatric way. And so my dearest colleague in the world is in the audience. Deepika Sharma, wave your hands. She's like roughly 5 years old, okay? And and there's like one of my favorite interns is up here. You can also wave your hands. He's like 1.5 years old. But no, it's great. I think working with young people is the bestest thing, because one is that to experience a lot of the shock that they also experience. Like this week we did a story. It's really funny. It's a story about how men don't like to wear condoms. Okay, like I was like, this is so sweet. Because the intern who was doing the story, she's like, I'm really shocked that men are refusing to wear condoms. Okay, basically what she was doing is she was calling up women, her friends and acquaintances, and saying, like, in the forward or whatever it is, prelude to sex, you discuss condoms and how does it go? The majority of the responses were like, men refuse, men pretend they have put it on but then they have not. I was like, what? They're like, shh, like magic trick, like, oh, oops. Apparently one quote was like, I felt so much passion, I didn't realize I had not put it on. And she was enraged, okay? She was like truly enraged. She said, men really are horrible or something. And I was like, yeah. So it's really nice. It's really nice to be around people because they really feel, and when they read things in the news, they don't have the same response that I have, which is, oh God, again. Which is, they're like, what the hell? That's their response. When some judge says things like, judges say crazy things. Whatever it is that I'm like, yeah, okay, one more judge. And my interns or my colleagues are just pissed. Yeah. So that's one level of emotional response, but it's also that they're pushing the boundary in terms of what kind of subject.